You're live.
Oh, Amy, do you know how to use that?
Yeah.
Oh, Eric, too.
Yeah. And yeah, I typically turn it on a minute or two beforehand, just to make sure.
Say that again?
I turn it on a minute or two before we start, just to make sure in case there's something wrong with it.
You know what the override you're on to?
No, just hit record.
Okay.
Or at least I never worked on it. But I've taught people to take care of that.
Yeah, that'll be in Mr.
Okay.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
It is.
If it's, you're talking about the 3 pieces of paper I laid out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he will handle it.
Randy, I'll probably just go and just send this over, so you know this whole thing. So,
Well, still call.
well, yeah.
Yeah, probably for breakfast.
Thanks. Depends on how our 9 o'clock goes.
I don't think very long.
I didn't say anything to her, but I thought I'd call her. We decided we wanted to go up and, to meet.
You kept that placard all this time?
Pardon me?
You kept that placard all this time?
No, I had 2 or 3 different ones.
Oh, that's right, you got it.
He was
You
up
have
for
one.
this show, so he was still on this one.
How old is that thing?
I'm guessing 96.
We set the tone early here tonight.
Hey, Jim, it's faded a little bit. What? It's faded a little bit.
I got it.
Oh, well, we're second best. Oh, we are over here. Yeah, well, yeah, it's, pretty soon it'll be an antique, it'll be worth some money. I won't get it back. Randy will sell it.
I'll let Verizon tell her, AT&T tells her time it is. All right. Looks like it's 7 o'clock. Let's call the meeting to order of the Hideaway Hills Board of Trustees of August 20, 2019. You all have the agenda. You saw it earlier today. You have it in front of you. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Move to adopt.
Linda.
Second.
Seconded by Scott. Any questions about the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And the motion passes unanimously. One of the good things that we have here is that we've just had an election, and we've got some new folks who joined the board, and we've also got some new officers on the board. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome our new people. Our new people are Mary Beth Fisher here to the left, and Andy Kerrigan to the right, and Tim Weibel to the right. 3 really good new people that we all look forward to working along with and serving the Hills. Jim Lloyd has changed seats. He and Greg Patassin. Greg was over here for a long time, and now as vice president, and vice president, now is on as ex officio, and Jim is a new member of the board. Jim is assuming Dennis Albury's position, and that will expire in 2021, whereas Tim, Annie, and Mary Beth will serve until 2022. For the board officers, I was reelected as the president. Linda Lonzinger is our new vice president, moving up and in the world bureaucratically. Anyway, glad to have her aboard. Annie Kerrigan is our new secretary and ready for the job. Eric is going to assist her, I'm sure, in all things. And then Tim Weibel stepped in as well as our treasurer to be able to work with Tom Matthews and get up to speed with what we're doing. I'm sure everybody's going to do well, and welcome and congratulations. And I think all the people in the Hills will get to know you, and if they don't know you already, and appreciate the work and the effort that you're going to put in. So welcome to the board. Now, moving on to the president's report, obviously, the election on Sunday was certainly problematic from our aspect of it. We had a fair turnout, not a great turnout. It was not nearly as much as we had for the dam, but we spent a lot of time with marketing it, and I think with informational sessions and emails and email blasts and everything else. So I feel confident that we did our due diligence in getting the issues out there and the like. Unfortunately, we fell short. The supermajority, the 66 2/3, was a goalpost too far. We couldn't reach it. We got to 63%. So again, we're a few votes short. Again, I am grateful for people who voted. They voted their pocketbooks, they voted their heart, they voted their mind, and that's all we can ask them to do. It will cause some rather immediate effects. I went ahead and looked at the CPI. The CPI this year will only go up, CPIW will go up at most 1.5% from where we're at. So it's only going to be a couple dollars on top of where we're at right now. I've looked at it, and I mean, it's not going to, there won't be, it's only 2 months left, on the year. And so the growth is going to be fairly small. If we're talking about our compensation issues at 1.5%, that's very, very far below what we had hoped to do and probably what's realistic moving forward. So that's going to be an issue we'll have to solve. It's a very simple budget that we have here, folks. There are no windfalls. There's no pots of gold underneath the rainbow. To be able to get that, we're going to have to do cuts, or we're going to have to change the way we do things. There's no alternative to that. But again, we put it out there for a vote. We tried to sell the idea, and it wasn't successful, so we'll go from there. We will have a balanced budget, and we'll do the best we can within the constraints that we have. I wish it was different, but that's we can talk about that later, about how we're going to go forward and deal with that. But those are, you can't hide it. Those are the issues. Our assessments will probably only go up on the order of $2 per month, which is $24 per year for people. So that's what it is. That being said, that concludes my president's report. Annie, do we have any correspondence?
We do not.
Speak into the mic loudly. We've seen that there's no correspondence. We have the minutes from the last meeting. They were published before they went out. I would like to have a motion to accept the minutes from last month's meeting.
So moved.
Scott moves first.
Second.
Second from Eric Lapp. Any discussion about the minutes? There being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. They pass unanimously. The minutes are finished. All right. Mr. Weibel, you're on.
I'm on.
You are on. For the treasurer's report, sir.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the treasurer's report as prepared by Tom Matthews, our outgoing treasurer. As of July 31st, 2019, we have a balance of $127,945.54 in the Benton County Bank.
Second from Tom. Well said. Any questions of Tim or Tom? There being none, I ask a motion, or we have a motion to have a vote to accept the treasurer's report from Mr. Weibel. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Moving right along. Mr. Kirk, you are up.
Good evening. All right, first thing I wanted to cover is some financial updates. The lodge sales were down. We're $37,834 down. No, pardon me, lodge sales were $37,834 in July, which was down $5,900 from last year. This is the second best month so far in 2019, though, on the positive side. Weekend sales continue to be very strong. Sunday sales are still trending somewhat upward. Lodge loss for July was almost $38,000. July had an extra pay period causing a spike in payroll expenses of over $7,000. And supplies were up over $4,600. That's mainly parts for the equipment failures at the end of June. They affected the sales in June, but they affected the expenses in July. Clubhouse sales were even year over year. Expenses were up over $10,000, with $5,500 of it being in payroll due to extra pay period. clubhouse loss for July was $5,754. Staffing, Lodge is still advertising, and by the way, they did jump on Facebook and try to reach out to the employees from Roots Restaurant when it closed. They're still advertising, looking for wait staff, and I think they need one more in the kitchen. Management committee member nominating procedure was completed thanks to help from Linda Lonsinger, and you have a copy of it in front of you. That's not something that I don't think we need to vote or anything on it. It's just a procedure or that we're going to use, and we're going to get to use it here very quickly. We wanted something kind of in writing so that generationally on down the road, people would know that we would like to have it in the Echo 2 months in a row. We would like to have e-blasts. We'd like to have it very transparent, so if there's any members who want to be on the management committee, they'll certainly know how to get, to put their name in the hat. You have 2 forms actually in front of you on that. You have the process, and then the second one, which, yes, it looks exactly, almost exactly, like the Board of Trustee nominating form, but it's been changed slightly for management committee candidates so that we have something handed to us. It's just not somebody saying that Tim Leibel wants to be on the management committee. We actually have a piece of paper in our hand with the person's background. Okay.
So that, is this time to ask questions on this? So the announcement will be in 2 consecutive issues of the Echo.
Right.
So 2 months we're
Yes.
going to collect, which of course means that's now the time they need to hire. That's almost a quarter without having that individual on management. Is that going to be a problem? I mean, it seems like that's an awful long time.
Well, in most cases, Eric, we know when somebody term limits out, and we'll do it ahead of time. In the case that we're going to discuss here in just a moment, that particular individual has been talked into changing his effective date of resignation by an extra 30 days, which gives us a window. Lastly, the management committee has ran with 4 members before, and it's not a dire situation. If somebody were to quit, move, whatever, plus if we can shorten that up, I mean, that's why it's not something we're voting in as a code or a law. It's a process we want to follow. If we had to shorten it up by 30 days because we needed a member on the board or on the committee, we would shorten it up. Hopefully we don't need to. Any other questions on that?
Yeah, they went 8 months with only 4 people when I stepped down, when I came onto the board. There was a vacancy for quite a while.
Okay, it just seems like a longer than necessary amount of time.
I would agree with Eric that you could, 1 Echo and e-blast.
I would agree with that. I think 30 days is plenty of time for the announcement to get out.
2 Echoes is 30 days.
Could be, depending on when it comes up and when it gets in the first.
Between 30 and 60.
Well, the bottom line is this.
No, I mean, if it's gonna be 2 Echoes in a row, it's gonna be 30 days apart.
Right,
Because Ginger gets them out by the 25th, and she'll get them out by the 25th. So if he gets it in a notice, it'll be a month.
Well, in the interest of being totally transparent and getting involvement from the members, when we can, which if somebody waits till they're termed out, we'll know that far ahead of time, we're going to put it in twice. And we're going to put out 2 e-blasts so that we can't have members, especially on social media, turn around afterwards and say that's their good old boy club, they only put their own in, we never have a chance to get on it, because they're gonna have a chance. That was what, and Dennis was also involved in this, and, but lastly, any more questions on that? Okay, now here's why we're gonna need it. Jim McNabb has tendered his letter of resignation. The letter is effective October 1st. I had a conversation with him this afternoon. He's staying till November 1st, which will give us time, barely, but it'll be real close to follow our new outline. He was going to term out next year anyways. His wife is retiring 1st of December, and they are going to get out of Dodge for about 6 months every winter and doesn't feel that he can be a good member of the committee if he's not in town for 6 months, so I certainly understand. So that's why I wanted to present the first thing, so that you know how, the nominating procedure, so you know how we're going to try to go about replacing Jim.
Does anybody have any further questions about it? Because it's gonna be imminent, it's gonna happen here real quickly, so.
Well, it's gonna be in the first echo, which the deadline is what, this Friday?
Right.
Yeah, I'll get with Ginger and we'll put it in there.
Yeah, it'll be out by next Monday.
I applaud you for putting this together.
That's great.
For full transparency.
I agree.
What'd you say, Scott?
I think it's great.
Thank you. All right, last thing I put on here was the defeat of the assessment increase. The management committee will discuss at our next meeting and give the board our recommendation for the next step, budget-wise and otherwise. You know, since it just happened Sunday, I haven't had any, other than a few short texts back and forth, we really haven't had any discussion about how it's gonna affect the budget, what we're gonna do, what we're not gonna do, what we're gonna have to move around and that sort of thing. Okay. And that concludes my report.
And we're gonna talk about that a little bit here too later, about with how the board is gonna get involved in getting a sense of the community as well, so.
Okay.
I think that working together will be an advantage to all of us.
Any questions? Thank you.
I have a question. How is things coming along with the restaurant advisory committee to help management?
The first meeting is probably going to be next week. I have talked to 4 people that want to be on the committee, and consensus is Thursday nights are going to be the best night for it. There's one who has a tremendous amount of background that I had discussions with 6 months or so ago, and he said he wanted to be involved when we did it, and now I'm struggling to get a hold of him. But I really, with his background, I really want him on the committee, so.
Well, Jim, and I guess that's one of the things that I've seen a trend is, you know, I know we're trying to do our best with this lodge and bring this back, but it seems like every month now we are losing more money than we did the year before. And I don't see any changes being made to solve that problem.
Well, there were quite a few changes in hours and menu and everything else, and they haven't.
And staffing as well.
And that was certainly from an expense perspective, and I see that our expenses have gone down. But I'm not really seeing anything to bring people in. I'm not seeing any promotions. We need to do something, I think, to bring people in, and I would see some of that coming out of that meeting that you're gonna have, and we need to make some changes here to get the lodge turned around in the right direction, because it's not going in the right direction right now. I think we all agree with that. So I'm hoping that this discussion that you have this month will start to be the track to move this in the other direction.
So let's hope so.
Jim, can you tell us who is on board? I mean, you've got one you're working on, I understand, but the ones that are committed to be on board, you say who they are?
2 of them I don't know. I've emailed and talked to them on the phone, and I don't know them personally, so, and I don't have my list here, so I don't know the names. But 2 of them I do know are Kathy Clevenger and John Blankenship.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions of Jim, comments? Thank you, appreciate it. Mr. Swetnam.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to go over the delinquency totals. They were really good in July. They went up in August, and not sure why. The regular assessments in July were 22,335. They went up to 24,872. The roads had gone down also in July to $22,125. And then they spiked way up to 53.42. Now, I know kind of why that is, simply because this is where they went to 60 days.
Right. Sure, back on the way.
60 days. So, and there was 20-some people on that that 60-day list, all of whom I called before the 15th, just to let them know that they were going to be on that list, and to try to avoid the $20 late fee, and also the possibility of whether or not they could vote or not. So we did have several people come in and pay, and but still, it was less than I expected. So we'll see how it goes.
To refresh everybody's memory, once people get on the 60-day list, that's when we formally declare them delinquent. Randy tries to call them in the first 15 days following the publishing of that to get people to pay at that point, so that we don't have to charge them either a late fee, or that we don't have to start to consider sending them to the collection agency. And it's been proven to be very successful over time. I mean, we're talking $20,000 in delinquencies on $1.7 million assessment budget, which is, most bill collectors would be very comfortable with that sort of performance. But anyway, that's what with the roads, because it's for the people who are due June 1, they just crossed over the 60 days. So we always see a little bit of a spike, and then generally the numbers come down. Anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead. I interrupted you.
Oh, no, that's fine. The next I have is the dam assessment total is $330,322. That's the total that we have in that account as of today, as a matter of fact. The audit is completed. We do have the draft. I believe I sent it out. Did I send it out? Maybe I didn't. Okay. But anyway, it's ready. The question was that we brought up at the management committee meeting is, do we want the auditor to come in and present it to the board? So she is willing to do that. We can do that at the next board meeting if you folks would like. It's kind of up to you. She is willing to do that. That's part of her duty, indeed, if we want to hear it.
Was there anything big wrong or anything?
There was no findings. There were some minor things, but there was no findings, and so it's up to you. You'll see it, Harvey. I'm sorry.
Would she be willing to be on tape so that the community would be able to see it?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
I think it's a good idea for that reason.
Okay, I'll set it up for the next board meeting. Is that sufficient? And you'll have it before then, so you can take a look at it.
Yeah, both Jim and Jim Sigovitz and Jim Kirk and I looked at it along with Randy, and it's, I mean, again, there's a few things that we see every year where we don't have enough separation of duties, we don't have enough people, and a few things like that. But in terms of any material findings, there are none.
I think for transparency purposes, it would be good for us.
I have no problem with it, yep. We'll get it around to you, and there's a management letter, of course, incorporated as well. But
Right.
We have a request for people to speak up.
Yes.
Me?
It could have been Randy. I don't know.
Oh, okay. I'm trying.
The next thing I will let everybody know that there's been some concern about our lake water. And so I contacted our water testing company, and they don't test for microsystem, which is the blue-green algae. And so they gave me the name of the company that does. It's called Alloway up in Marion. I contacted them. They sent me the testing supplies last Friday, and I did the test yesterday and sent it back off to them. They received that today. And so we'll probably hear within the next week or so what the results of the microsystem test is. I tested the lake of Four Seasons and Deerfoot. So, and Deerfoot.
Can we get all of them tested?
We could, but I don't know if it's necessary.
All right. Isn't it mostly because of farm
Yeah, that's what it
runoff
is, farm runoff. And I look for the test to be totally negative. But, you know, folks wanted to see it, so we'll do it. The cost per test is $30, so it's not all that bad. I thought it was going to be a lot more than that. So we'll see what comes out. If there is a high level, not necessarily a positive, but a higher level, I'll test the rest of them. Yeah, so members will know.
It's still water, shallow water, a lot of phosphates and nitrates. Those are the places where you see the worst of it.
Right. And a lot of the Lakes Community Association, they have a hard time with it. A lot of them are doing a lot of chemical treatments in their lakes, but we have never had the problems that the other lakes communities have.
I think Buckeye's got 2 beaches closed right now, too.
Yeah.
Well, that lake is shallow, and then they have a lot of farm runoff, with all that
Yeah, well,
fertilizer
I mean,
going in there.
Algae,
Algae.
yeah, you've had a problem down at Deer Creek, you've had problems up at Owl Creek. Big park, both are lakes.
Hey, Tom, do you think we ought to test Eagle Claw?
The only thing I was, we talked about those aerators,
Yeah.
and we said, hey, we'll let it go and just, see how it looks in a year or two. Just to have a base that, to test it, I don't know what all they test for, if it's just for the algae. But just to have a base and a year or two to test it again and say, hey, the lake's changing.
I can do that.
Well, I guess, I think I brought that up to Sue at one point, is how are we going to know if we need an aerator at Eagle Claw? It seems great. I don't know if are we testing for algae? Is that what they're worried about for the aerator or not? Or how do we know?
I don't think aerator will have anything to do with where we have the blue
It's
green
all
out here.
about the chemicals from farm runoff that cause that. And you're gonna see that water, I was at Buckeye Lake this weekend, the water is green, like Wizard of Oz green. And if you dip a stick into it, it sticks like paint on it, not like, if it's not paint-like, it comes out like a plant-based stuff, you're okay, but that is it's bad up there. So you will see that, and it's called shallow water, it's the heat, and you don't have shallow water, you've got a lot of water movement just from wind. We've got a 700-acre watershed of springs that are feeding all these lakes that we have, and we're very lucky to have that because it's clear spring water. So that's why we've never had an issue.
Never had a problem.
But if you want a base test, they're a lot cheaper than they used to be. When we looked into this 5-6 years ago, it was $500-600 to package it, test it and everything, and we did the big lake once because we had a little bit of normal algae growth. The stuff on Deerfoot is a plant. You go down there and you just pick it up, it's a plant. It's not any of that yucky stuff. It's got little seed pods, and in the heat you can hear them pop, and that's how it grows more of it. Just spits these little seeds out. Like Rice Krispies down there. It's unbelievable how it sounds. It's very strange. I went down, checked, and did the stick test and all that with it, and I don't think we're gonna have a problem, but.
I think it'd be a good idea for a base, though.
Every time when you get out of the water, if your legs are green, it's time to do something.
We'll get another test.
Yeah, just answer that question.
The last thing I had is about Lake Eagle Claw. We had talked about a way to lower that lake quicker, other than the sinkholes that are already in there. And so maintenance was down there a couple weeks ago and cut that principal spillway off 30 inches because the water wasn't getting up to it at all anyway. And I know some members have put their docks in there, and so they were having problems with that when it came up so fast with the heavy rains. So now that has been cut off and channel cut to it, so the water gets to it right away. So, and that's all I have for.
What size diameter is that pipe, do you know?
It was 18 to 24 inches. I went over and took a look at it.
It probably looks bigger than, I haven't already got that close to it.
It's about this big.
Yeah, and that's about 18.
Thanks, Randy.
I'm not positive.
24.
I'm not positive.
Was it metric or? Alrighty.
I had a question for Randy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, any questions for Randy?
Actually, Randy, you set the agenda for the management meetings, correct?
No,
Oh,
not necessarily.
well, then maybe this is for you and for Jim. I guess I'm requesting that you add to the management agenda for this next one around taping or video live streaming the management meetings. And I think that it adds great transparency to our group. The management meeting is where all of the works get done in here, and I think if we're able to show that to our community, it's just better transparency, right? Everybody has a better idea of what's going on. So I guess what I'm asking is, would you put the discussion on streaming our meetings on your agenda?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions at all?
Randy, do you know when the fall,
It'll be sometime in October. Somebody else asked us, but we haven't said it yet.
you know, well, you didn't know, do you know where it is?
Or what is?
Where it will be at this point, or not, the fall, Lakes Community Meeting?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the cleanup.
No,
It is September 18th and 19th. Typically, wow, they usually send that information out a month ahead of time, and it's after that point right now. It is 18th and 19th of September at Lake Cable, which is in North Canton.
okay.
Yeah.
Be a good idea for new members the reason I brought it up.
Oh, yeah,
It'd be a real good idea for these new members to
Yeah.
spend at least one day
yeah,
at that meeting, because they really learn a lot.
yeah.
What day of the week is that this time?
No, it's Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay, because they were meeting, we'll have the board meeting that Tuesday night. So,
And for anybody that doesn't know, the club pays for board management and committee chairs to attend that meeting. And it's for the 2-day meeting, it's usually $45 unless it's going up. For a single day, it's usually $30.
Yeah, they don't cover accommodations.
No, they don't have accommodations.
If I remember right, the second day of meeting is when you really get into the meat of the thing. Am I correct on that? Because it's gonna
Yeah,
cover
that's
this
correct.
one.
Yeah.
If you're only gonna go one day, the second day is the day that
Probably
really.
the best. Because typically they have 3 double sessions. So on that second day, and you can choose, and 3 double sessions, meaning 3 time frames and 2 sessions per time frame, and you have to choose what session you want to go to. So it's always nice to have, I always go to them, it's always nice to have somebody else there to go to the other session. And so anybody who wants to attend, you're welcome.
I suggest if we're sending somebody that they bring a report back to the board and share that information.
We normally do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Randy normally reports on what it is.
yeah, the first day, the Wednesday is generally, you get there and it's sort of more the fellowship, and there's a lot of information about the host lake, that's who's got the meeting. And so that one is, I mean, it's fine, and but if you're time constrained at all, and especially for people who are working, I can see that being an issue. But the second day, as Andy said, there'll be an opening in the beginning where the attorneys who represent the Ohio Lakes community will do secession, and then there, some of the other folks that would be water quality, dams, things like that, each take turns sharing energy and dredging, and there'll be a couple open discussions where you can get a lot of those details. So the second day is really, it's not a full day. You're pretty much out of there by 4 o'clock. So that's when I've gone just driven up the morning, up the second day, and then come back in the afternoon. So it's a little more time efficient that way. Now that I'm not employed anymore, it's a lot easier. All right, moving along. Let's go. Anything further with Randy at all? Let's go on then to committee business and reports. We will have to talk about, several of you have given me indications of what your interests are in terms of committees. And so if you haven't, please let me know, and we'll try to move the people around and get everybody, assigned to things. But there's been a couple where people both want the same thing, so I'd like to get everybody's together, and then I'll come back and talk to you and figure out who's got what and how to go forward with that. Again, with Dave left, Dave was social committee. Greg is still here.
I got it.
Yeah. Okay.
Excuse me.
Dennis was long range planning, I believe, was his one, the primary thing that he did. And then, Dwayne had several.
He had shooting range.
And barn, I think you had barn, didn't you?
No, I had barn.
Yeah, pool, we'll just ask people to send them to me, and then I don't.
If I explain to you two people what the heck we're talking about.
Mike Burnside actually called me and asked me to be the social
Okay.
person, so.
Okay.
That's go to your social.
Yeah, I mean, for new people, the board rep, what they do is, it's probably a good idea for you to go to a meeting or two of the committees, various times that they do it. When they spend money, you need to be the conduit in terms of working with them to get approval before the money's spent. We have had a couple committees who have had problems understanding what the rules are, so at some point you have to sort of whack them on the nose a little bit and make sure we follow the rules. But those are the primary activities.
One of the other things is the difference between committee funds and amenity funds.
That's also true.
Yeah, folks have problems with.
Yeah, so committee funds are the funds that the committees generate through their own activities, whether it's the 50-50 or some sort of, contributions that they receive as part of one of their fundraisers. Those are committee funds. They are still club funds, even though they're committee funds, they are club funds, and they're covered by all of the audit and all of the rules that we are in the club. So that's one source of fund. The other source of funds are the amenities funds, and the amenities funds come from the process with the new member fee of the $4,400 for the new member fee. It's split, 50% goes into the amenities fund. It's collected for an entire year, and then in November we make an allocation for the succeeding year. So it's all money that has been collected, so we know exactly how much we have. The carry forward from the previous amenities fund, what we generate that year. 50% goes to the amenities fund, which with the long range planning is a determination made by the committee chairs. 40% of the new member fee goes directly into the operating fund and is literally spent within that year. I mean, we've had to do it because of the tightness of the budget. And 10% of the other 10%, 50, 40, and 10 equals 100. I trust my math is right there. The other 10% goes to the roads and is spent as part of the roads allocation during the summer months when we're fixing up the roads. So those are the two pieces. Again, as a board rep, interacting with the committee to make sure, we're going to talk more about this fall about how to make sure we get a little more process and formula to the amenities funds, because in the last couple of years the amenities funds the allocation is generally six figures. It's over 100,000, and for comparison, the management committee is struggling to generate $110,000 for its depreciation account to replace its equipment and other things within the club. So the rules are very clear. It's in the code, so there won't be, we're not limited, but we have a program, a formula that's there. But how we do that and making sure that sort of everybody's priorities sort of line up, or at least are considered as we go forward, I think is the best way to do it. Again, the only time that the club itself, the management and board, has really gotten involved in terms of asking for something or in the process of the amenities project was 4 years ago, when Sue was very gracious in placing number one on the priority for the Lakes Committee to be the dredging at the north end, because we had a $230,000 bill. We had some money left in the sediment trap, but we weren't going to be able to do it as well as we wanted. So the Lakes Committee recommended that, the committees prioritized it, but otherwise it's been basically the committee chairs getting together and making the decisions on how to do that. So that's the process. Any questions about that? All right. And Mr. Yost is here. We've talked a little bit about how we're going to work with this process, and we'll have more discussion about that going forward. All right. Committee reports. Anybody requests? Greg, you got anything? You're on the far end.
Yeah, I can't make the motion, but I'll explain the first one and ask Scott to make the motion. The Organic Garden would like to host a Gifts That Give sale on September 21st from 1 to 3 in the Great Room. The proceeds would go to various charitable organizations. The plan is to get at least 3 charities that help people to sell what they have. And it started because Royce Mood has donated a lot of things that are no longer needed in his household, and some very nice things. A quilt that's probably 80 years old and hand done. And I know Jan showed us some quilters today, and they said, wow. And a lot of other things, books and things. And then Pat Warnicki's got baskets from Uganda for that Uganda project, and Marty Gossett has Soups for Success. So the idea is that let those committees come in here, show their wares, people can buy it, and the funds go to the committees. Questions first before?
These are members, and we're not bringing people from the outside.
Oh, no, all members. All members doing things for, charitable causes.
Date and time?
All right, I'd like to make a motion to reserve the great room on September 21st, 2019 for the OCG Gifts That Give charity event.
Do we have a second?
Does anybody check the calendar?
The calendar is clear. Thank you, Randy, and ask it every time. Well, I'll
The calendar is clear.
there is yoga before that, but everybody out of here.
You said at 1 p.m.?
1 to 3.
1 to 3.
Mr. Weigel seconded. Any further questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good deal.
I keep forgetting I can vote now.
You may.
I just said it, duh.
I guess the other one doesn't need any explanation, really. The organic garden, well, I'd like to make a motion to reserve Saturday, July 18th, 2020, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. for the Garden Arts and Crafts Fest at the Organic Garden.
Is the calendar?
The calendar is clear.
I don't think the calendar's out for July of 2000.
Well, there's an entry now.
There is
In the
now.
morning.
Well, I mean, this year, we had several things on that day, and avoiding that would be, although are you gonna ask for a little cooler day this year?
I'm not going to make that as part of my motion.
All right. Scott made the motion, we have a second.
Second.
Jim Lloyd seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah, I got a couple of things. First, I'm doing this for the social committee. They're asking for $2,394.98. 2,000 of that will pay Top Gun.
Top Gun.
Top Gun. The military just came out. Top Gun.
I don't think we want you Tom Cruise.
And Taylor rental for tables would be $394.98, so I make a motion that we pay those two bills.
Any questions? Jim, any second?
First amount, Jim?
Yeah.
Pardon me, 2,000, and that was for Top Gun.
I thought you said, oh, okay, it's
$394.98
For the tables.
That's
all
correct.
right, so 2,000 even for the first amount?
Yes. He also made a note that they just put $1,500 in their account last Friday that will cover all of these expenses. I didn't see a,
1501. We just processed it today.
oh, okay, that's the reason we didn't have it, because we normally have it for the meeting.
Second? For the second. 1 to seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Pay popcorn. Sounds good.
As far as the airport committee, first off, give you a real quick report on where we are on the dinners. We're limiting to 100 dinners, just like we did last year. As of last night, we got 66 dinners sold, and they're up there tonight also. So we're getting real close, and we have now $304 in the raffle fund. We're going to continue the raffle fund, but we are cutting the dinners off when we either get to 200 or next Tuesday. Somebody will be there every night. Where? At the clubhouse, I'm sorry.
200 or
200 or 100?
You said 200. 200 dinners?
Yeah.
100, I'm sorry.
There you go.
Been a long time since I've done all this.
Tuesday.
Wow. Yeah, we're limiting to 100, so we will cut it off either when we reach the 100 or 200. I will be putting e-blasts out.
200.
100
Or next Tuesday.
for next Tuesday. Well, you do get out.
don't think it's anybody else's fault here.
Okay, we got $304 in the raffle fund at this point. And also, I don't know if I need a motion on this or not, but I expect we do. We would like permission on September 1st to reserve the 15-minute dock at the beach for the John boat so that we can take the dinners out and deliver them on the boat. So we would like to reserve the 15-minute dock from 4 till 6:30 on September 4th for the John boat, so we can deliver the 100 dinners. I couldn't resist that.
I don't see any problem with that, do you, Jim, Ray? Okay.
We don't need a motion on that, do we?
I don't think so, no.
We just need to tell.
Yeah, you just need to put it out there somewhere,
Like
like,
somebody to make sure security knows.
okay.
And what was that date?
September 1st, from 4 until 6:30 p.m.
It's during the concert that's down in the Beach Cove.
And that's all I've got.
Very good, thank you. Scott, you're
I'm done.
Mary Beth doesn't have an assignment yet, so there's nothing yet.
One thing, this is from the Lakes Committee, we'd like approval to move the tadpole fishing contest to June 13th, which is a Saturday, 2020. Yes, the day is free. And they will then ask later for the shelter house to be reserved. So I'd like to make a motion for that.
Do you have a second?
Yes.
Second from Scott. Any question? Appreciate you getting it in so easy and so early. June 13th for the tadpole contest. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Tim, you're nothing yet either. Eric?
I got that.
You got, is that nothing? I'm trying to get in the microphone. All right, Tom, you got it?
No.
Nothing. How did the pickleball and the tennis thing go, your overrun?
Went well. They had, I think, 70-some people, and went real well.
Good. How much money did it?
I think it was 600 or something.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's more than they've had in quite a while, isn't it? That's gonna go for new equipment for the.
Yeah, just balls, nets, whatever, pickles.
Yeah, I like pickleball. That's actually a good game. All right. That then brings us to the end of committee reports. Phone requests are all finished. Now it's open forum. We'll adjourn to open forum. Cottons, are you interested in speaking?
I just had one question.
Yep, please.
I had asked the office for a list of all the amenities, everything, their annual costs, and their incomes, showing net cost for each and every amenity we have here. Now, I got a nice report, but it's not what I asked for.
Okay.
It's basically a committee report, and it tells me, you know, what the, how much money is set aside for each committee and how much of that they have spent. But that wasn't quite what I'd asked for, so I don't know, who do I ask?
Well, Penny has that information. Maybe she didn't understand what you were asking.
Maybe not, but, you know, she sent me a report that shows me the committee, you know, the committee funds, how much was allocated, how much of that has been spent.
And so what is it you're asking for?
See, even I didn't explain it properly. Every amenity we have here, for example, in the Echo, it shows, you know, our general funds, it shows income expenditures, it shows the lodge income expenses, it shows the clubhouse. Why doesn't it show the golf course expenditures, of course zero income, but the pool, annual expenses, or expenses this month or something? As a member, I'd like to see every single amenity we have and how much it costs us. per year for every amenity,
We have the P&L.
but it doesn't show me that, it shows combined stuff. I wanna see every how much does it cost to maintain the golf course?
What?
How much does it cost to maintain the pool?
Okay.
How much does it cost to maintain the shooting range, the airport? I wanna see every single one of them. How do I get that report?
If that's a report we can pull out through QuickBooks, we'll do that for you, but that may take a while to do it.
That's okay. I just kinda think it's necessary, at least from my point of view, I wanna see them all.
Okay, understood.
Because in my mind, how do I know which ones are costing us more than they ought to? Which ones should or should not be increased or decreased? You know, I mean, we don't get to see all that, it's just a member.
Right, and I think Joanne, I think there will be some work, and I think it's a good request. We'll have to do, because what we do right now in our profit and loss statement is we capture transactions. And those transactions are primary consumables, whether they be chemicals for the golf course and this and the other thing, replacement and the like. And so there's a couple different sources that we have to also include in that. And some of that would be, we probably get pretty closely there, because although we do some analysis that spends of our personnel working on each of those things, that's probably not as tight as it would be to give you a perfect touch on that. And the other piece we'd have to look at would be stuff that we capitalize. Like you said, things like equipment that we buy, how do we spread, how do we share that? I think it's certainly, we haven't attempted to do that in several years. I did it probably the first or second year that I was on the management committee, just trying to get my own head wrapping around it.
That's what I'm trying to do, is wrap my head around
we
what we're doing.
We haven't done that. So what we can pull out for you right now would be like I said, the cost centers and what we have in terms of just the direct expenditures. And again, then, having been in public sector finance, then you always have an overhead piece, which is how much of Randy's time and Penny's time and everybody else, because those are all costs. And
but if we're going to do what somebody recommended in one of the meetings one day, to quit calling these profits and losses and start calling them costs, then each and every one of them has a cost. Can we see what it is?
Oh, the answer is obviously yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yes. And it's just a matter of, it certainly would get you to well past the 98% confidence level on that stuff. There'd be a few things that would drop between, but no, it's going to take some work. We do not, to answer what Randy said, we do not have that information right now to answer the question that you're asking. Okay. We do not have it quite that way, and we don't do it on an ongoing basis, and perhaps we need to do that. You're right, there was a lot of conversations about that I saw back and forth, and again, there's parts of the budget which are very, very direct, and other pieces which aren't. It's sort of like how much do you charge each of the pieces. We pay over $100,000 in insurance, so that all that has to be allocated out, and we don't do those. We tend to leave that into basically a big pot and just call that as administrative cost, but it isn't. It's actually can be directly attributed to the amenities, but it's not a We'll talk about it. We'll figure out how we can get.
It really gets tricky.
It does.
Do we track our labor, or where you would know how much time is spent mowing the golf? Okay, didn't know if you did or not.
Yeah, we do. That is one thing we do. Yeah, that was one piece, and and that literally tracking your labor does pretty well. Close to 60% of our budget is labor. But that's a good question, and we'll sit down and take a look at that. Figure out how to get it. Yep. Or Mr. Kirk will.
Thanks, Steve.
Actually, I did it a long time ago. It was when I first just to figure it out how we were doing it, because I didn't have any idea.
I know you do.
Anybody else have any questions? All right. Let's close open forum and go back to our regular meeting. Unfinished business topics. I don't have any for this meeting. And now we come to the comedy part of the meeting, the revoting the e-votes. No, those are here at the end. Everybody's making this. Okay. That's what you got there. Yeah, that might even be more. All right. So for new members, we do regularly do e-votes during the course of the month, because since we only meet for 2 hours once a month, waiting everything for that turned this into basically just a bureaucratic session where we went through vote after vote after vote. And so several years ago, we went through and identified a rule that says we can do these votes in real time electronically. And so the process is that either the committees or one of you, if you have a desire or a need for an e-vote, you ask the vice president, you tell them what the stipulation is, what you want in it, and then the vice president will...
Temporarily, it will be ex officio.
That's right.
So send you Greg for now?
Yeah, Linda's talked Greg into handling it for a couple more months, so. But anyway, so that's what we're gonna continue to do. And so then, you see in front of you the votes. In this case, all of them were 7-0. We had only 7 members who were voting at that time. And I don't vote unless it's a 4-4. And that's the only time that I would vote. So generally, we only have generally have 8 people. We do ask everybody to vote, regularly, and as quickly as possible if you can. If you have questions, feel free to ask them. But if we do them quickly, then we can get back to people who want to do something, first of all. And second, then Greg doesn't have to run around, or Linda, whoever's doing it, doesn't have to run around and ask you to vote again or to make sure you do. That being said, then the process says that all these votes that we take, we then need to identify them and put them in the official minutes at a board meeting. And so bear with us. I will read through. Usually what we will do is read them in terms of what the vote was. So if we've got 8 O's, 7 O's, and then 6 2s or whatever, we do them in order and look at them that way.
Jim,
Yes.
I don't think the new members, these are referring, so I don't think that they cannot vote on this.
I don't think they would. They would not be doing that.
It's just reaffirming.
That's correct. We have, do we have 1, 2? Greg was here. You can vote on this, Scott and Linda. So we have a quorum to vote on it. And I guess I'm.
But that doesn't even really need a quorum, it's just the people that are.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I just wanted to point that out for you.
Yep. So looking at your sheet, it starts after the last meeting that we had. So on July 20th, 2019, we had an e-vote to pay Truman Construction $1,735 and Tom's Plumbing $4,000 for work on the Panacea building. That's for the Health and Wellness, or we're thinking maybe the Health and Wellness Center. 7/23, we have an e-vote to approve paying Kelly Williams $327.46 for food costs at the Garden Art Fest from Organic Garden Committee funds. 7/24, an e-vote to reimburse Lance Olds $40.20 from new member committee funds for lot sign supplies. On 7/31, July 31, an e-vote to approve golf committee holding a raffle for a $300 stand-up video game that was donated to the golf committee. August 1, an e-vote to approve $1,600 from social committee funds for Mark Pennington Trio and up to $60 for specialty printing for the amphitheater banner. On the 2nd of August, we have an e-vote to pay road rust sealing $900 from golf committee funds for edging the cart path along number 9, filling in boxes for 2 benches on the course, and laying a pad for the dumpster in the parking lot. August 5, an e-vote to immediately ban a member from all facilities and amenities except for the post office and dumpsters. He is limited to ingress and egress. On August 6th, an e-vote to approve a range open house and trap shoot on September 14th from 11 to 4. On the 7th of August, an e-vote for the Health and Wellness Committee to have a cornhole tournament on Saturday, 9/28/19, and a lake run on Saturday, November 2, 2019. On the 14th of August, an e-vote to approve a cookbook for the Health and Wellness Committee. On the 16th, an e-vote to Article 9, a member for abuse of employees. And on 8/17/2019, an e-vote to approve Emmanuel Lutheran to use the chapel in the Pines on September 8th at 10 a.m. for their Sunday services. All of these votes were 7-0. I have a motion to approve the e-votes.
So moved.
Scott moves.
I had discussion like that.
Okay, let me get a second, and then I'll come back to you. Second from Linda. Any discussion?
I have some discussion. On the Emmanuel Lutheran Church, I didn't vote either way. I put a question out there as to what the logistics were and so forth of allowing the church and all their people to come into the chapel, and I never got a response. So officially, I did not vote.
I thought we voted for that already in a meeting previously. I don't remember because that was something that Dwayne was, because that's his church, so I thought we discussed that in a meeting.
Well, I can't remember what.
I saw that you made that question and I was busy, I meant to say that, but I got.
So my concern was, what are the logistics of that? Are we going calling every member of the church in to use our chapel and that?
I thought they already did it in the spring too. They did a thing where it was fourth Sunday or fifth Sunday or some kind of deal that we were doing.
They did that at the shelter, I think.
Was there a picnic at the shelter?
Something like that. But I apologize, I recall your question, I thought you said you came back with okay, maybe, and I took that as a vote.
Okay.
My fault.
No, that's fine.
I guess has everybody thought about that, what the logistics are, of having people that are not members and using our facilities, something along those lines of a church? So.
And the church itself is a member.
I know that, but does it make every member of the church a member of Hollywood Hills?
But they can call in all their own members because they're a member. They can call all the members of their church.
Who are the two designated?
And I think their average attendance is 25.
And over half of them are probably members.
That's a good point.
Okay, if nobody else has it, I just wanted to clarify.
Well, I think it makes sense that we would have them call in their non-members, don't we?
Oh, sure.
For sure. To answer your question, I think, yeah, I think it would be to ask them to provide security with that.
Move forward.
I'm thinking Jim, I have to sit back. I'm talking and thinking about it. Yeah, I think you're right. I think, yeah, I mean, if they've got people coming in and,
I'll get back to Dwayne in a second.
Yeah, just have them to get
Call
it
it non-members, that's a good point.
I think it's a good point. I think
And
it's,
how do you,
it's
now,
consistent.
you can change your vote, or,
Understood. With that clarification, I vote yes.
good call, good question.
Any further discussion? Given that the vote is 7-0 as listed there, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. All right. Here's an interesting one, and I appreciate Eric for bringing it up. I think it's a really one, which is an emergency response and what we might want to do. Eric, it's yours. Take the floor is yours.
So, a lot of you already know, 2 years ago, I had some people working on my property, and we had a casualty, some of the workers, and it took 25 minutes to get the emergency crew from Logan up to my property, and it was unfortunate. I think it was even more recent. We had an issue with somebody who was cutting some wood in their yard, and again, a very, very slow response. And then most recently, we had one of our past board members, Dwayne. I guess, he had some medical issues, and it was 35 minutes to get somebody here to go and to attend to him. In that case, it was fortunate because the concert was going on. We had quite a few nurses and I guess even an EMT that happened to be in the area to give him medical care while we were waiting for the EMTs to get here. This just kind of outlined, I think we've got a problem. And I'd like to try to look at a way to solve that. We have numerous people here in the hills that are first responders. And I spoke with Steve Cundiff, who has a long resume of first responding experience, about creating, and I don't know, what do we call it, a task force or a group to take on this challenge, to see if there's a way that we can call out those first responders in the case of emergency. One idea I had was just that those people all subscribe to being a first responder here in the area, and when something happens, the security can send a text out. I mean, at a minimum, maybe we do something with, if we have enough first responders that maybe somebody's on call one day a month. There's a lot of different ways that we can do that. I think one of the issues we're going to overcome is the Good Samaritan law and how that might complicate the issue. But the bottom line is, Steve is willing to take a look at this. I'm certainly willing to be a board representative, but I'd like to create this group. I don't know, maybe somebody can help me as to what we should call it, but a group to take a look at our emergency response and how we might be able to improve it. And so I wanted to have this discussion, throw this out there for a vote to approve such a group and
An ad hoc committee.
so ad hoc.
I mean, whatever, yeah, that's what we generally call it, but that's fine.
So let's just call it an emergency response ad hoc committee to explore what our options might be to hopefully improve what's going on. Again, I'll make that motion. I'll certainly be happy to be the board rep to make sure that things move along. Steve will be involved, if not leading the committee, and we'll be calling on other first responders to help us put this together.
And Great Wine was also.
Great,
And
absolutely.
he was with the city of Columbus and the fire department as well.
Ray,
That's what I meant to say.
I would have said Greg.
Probably because we're leaning back
I
and
was.
putting things.
I'll second the motion, but I'd like to add some discussion though.
Okay, please.
We considered that in the past.
Mhm.
And I'm seconding the motion, I want you to please go and consider it. I'm gonna add a twist. But what we found is that any of the, like nurses and docs for sure, and I think the EMTs would not be covered under the Good Samaritan law if their name was on a list to do that, where they could be called. And we went through the lawyer on that.
Right.
Maybe you can get around it now, because things have changed. That was 6 years ago. But the thing I would say we ought to look into, one of the problems we have, and that one of the, a friend of mine who's on the staff at Freeman Rush Creek, heard about that call and said, why the heck doesn't it come to us? Well, it's because, I think it was because either it was made from Hocking County or the phone number, I am pretty sure that it knows where you're calling from. If you're calling from Hocking County, that's where they're gonna send it to Logan. Maybe we need to find out if there's a way that we can direct more of our calls to Bremen Rush Creek, because that's a lot closer and they get here a lot faster. They're 24/7 people on staff at that firehouse. And I would say, look into that.
Yes.
How can we direct the calls from here? Because I don't think there's, and Randy, I would ask a question. Am I correct that Logan would always come through the front gate?
Yes.
Okay, and now, with Bremen Rush Creek, do they come through always the back of the Bremen
They
gate?
would come through the back gate, yes. But we would have to meet them up there to direct them to the line. Yeah.
Well,
So
I can add to that a little bit too, because I was there. What happened was the security guard that was there called the office, or not the office, the security guard chat, and they called, and so that automatically sent it to Hocking County. Now, there's gotta be some protocol on that where, this is kinda gonna be your job, I guess, Randy, to check in and find out, okay, I mean, it was 10 minutes from Bremen, yet because the call came from there, if a 911 call had to come from one of the people
Yeah.
there,
Here, yeah.
but you can't always do that way. But you need to check and see, hey, when you call 911, you can say, hey, this is Hocking County, but the accident is in Fairfield County, closer to Bremen. Can you, I don't know whether you can do that or not, whether they're.
Can you call from the 746 number at the guard shack?
Sure.
And that would not be considered a Logan hockey exchange, right?
Yeah, but that may go to Burn Township.
Okay.
Sugar Grove, which is even farther.
It would be my
I
hope
don't know.
Steve has some insight into how we can work that out.
Question, because he's been in Circleville and he's done
Absolutely.
this stuff, and I think he would probably.
But your point's well taken, it's certainly something that's part of the concern, be part of the task.
There's gotta be a way to get out of the county if it's closer. You know,
Yeah.
let's face it, anything from here on,
Well, typically, when there's a problem, the member will call 911. And if the member is on this side of the hills, it will go to Brigham. But since they called down to security instead of calling from here or wherever, that's probably the reason.
well, there's still gotta be a way on that.
Yeah,
Because if I call 911, they're gonna send the Columbus Department, because that's what my number to Columbus.
Yeah,
is.
so that's what
It knows where your phone's at.
Knows where your phone's at? Okay. Well, then there's the answer. Or
I like that.
the guard just uses his phone and calls.
Literally, it's just.
Jim, even when you don't know where your phone is, they know where it is.
I think this is
That's true.
really worthwhile looking into. And I think there will be a lot of nuances. I think we can make it a lot better than it is now. I share the concerns that Greg brought up. We would have to look very carefully at trying to give any kind of medical intervention here, and I know we will. I mean, we'd seek legal counsel and look at that. But we may not need to do that. And I don't even know that we can do that.
Well, I certainly hope that'd be the case, but I'm not opposed to even talking to our representatives and seeing if we can't get a law changed, because it just doesn't make sense, right? I mean, I know the Good Samaritan law is there for a reason, but if we're trying to save people's lives, there's gotta be a way to do it.
And I agree, but you have to have a doctor that's overseeing. If there are EMTs, we don't have equipment, we don't have medicines. We would have an AED and someone performing CPR and maybe doing vitals. I don't know what else you could do, but it's worth exploring. I think there are ways that we can make it better, and I think all of us are aware that it's a shortcoming that needs to be addressed.
Greg, do you remember who we spoke to? Did we speak to Jeff, or was that Rick Levinsky?
That was Jeff.
That would have been Jeff.
That was Jeff.
Who's the liability on the doctor or on the club?
Well, if we organize it and have it as being a sort of a semi-official, I mean, this is what I understood from when we talked about it again, you know, whether there'd been any chance of changes, but pardon?
Both will get sued. And we would be a deep pocket. Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
Jim, do you realize you sat two lawyers side by side?
And we'll chat into this. We were discussing.
Well, actually, our daughter-in-law's an insurance litigator, so she will also be able to
But it is.
share a little information on that, yeah.
I called twice, had to call twice and had waited 30 to 45 minutes.
So you broke a rib too, didn't you?
Yeah, one was an ambulance and one was the fire department.
That's a golden half hour where you can save someone or you can lose someone. And it's well worth looking into.
Sure, so there's a lot of ways we can go to that, but I guess that's why I made the motion to try to create the ad hoc committee, and let's run with it.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
We have a second from Jim Lloyd. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please let's keep us involved too. I mean, I think
Thank you.
Obviously, you sense there's a whole lot of interest here. Yep. Mr. Cundiff, I know, it will be very aggressive in following up as well. All right, Greg. This
Yeah,
one was yours.
I'm recommending that we put a tab on the website that's in memoriam or whatever you want to call it. But when the flags are down at half-staff, you got to stop the guardhouse. And I'm sure they get tired of saying, you know, who it is that's passed away. And the office does have a process of vetting those so they know they don't lower the flag until they're sure. But then, or you drive through and then somebody says, oh, the flag's down, you don't know who it is. So I don't see any reason not to just list it on the website for the same period, in a separate tab, so somebody knows I can go to the website and find out who the member is who's deceased. I just wanted to throw it out and see if there's any objection.
Would you, ask permission from their spouse or family member before you announce that, Greg?
How do you make the
Yeah,
decision?
that's typically, they usually call in, is what happens, yeah.
I guess that is what is our policy on the flag at half-mast, and, you know, how do we decide that, and how long is it? I
It's
guess
supposed to be 3 days.
Okay.
Recently, there's been a lot of government activity with the shootings and stuff that the government has asked to have your flags flown at half-staff. And some of them has been more than a week or so. And so that's why some of it's been down, but recently with the deaths we had, yeah.
So it could be a federal request, the state could request it,
Yeah.
or we do it on our own because of, okay.
Yeah.
Members?
Yeah, for our members, yeah. Now, we have asked to do it for members' family, and we've denied that. It's just members only.
I guess my question,
You're sharing personal
you're
information.
sharing personal
so
information,
you ask
and if
for
you're
the
gonna do
permission.
that, so we need to get that permission before we actually put the name out there. I know we put the flag down, but then if you're gonna put an announcement, if you will, on the website, I think we need to make sure we get permission to do that also.
Probably a good idea.
Once you get that information from the family that we're gonna put on the web, it's probably not just gonna say such and such passed away, and hopefully there's something more to it.
Well, they probably, a lot of times they don't know the
Right.
information, and sometimes there's no services right away. They wait, then the flag is down.
Well, I guess you could ask them when they call in to ask for the flag to be put down.
But I'm gonna add one thing to that too. It's normally 3 days, but somebody needs to control that.
Right.
I mean, whoever does that, because, the last couple, they were down, the flags were half-mast for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Before somebody raised them up, and, 3 days is nice, and it's showing respect, but boy, I would hate to drive in here every day for 2 weeks and see that flag at half-mast. So, please, let's bring it back up.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'll second Greg's motion, I think is that what we're waiting for? Greg, you made a motion.
I didn't make a motion, I just threw it out for discussion. I don't know.
You know,
I didn't make a motion.
Yes.
So it doesn't need a motion, does it?
I don't
We're
think
discussing
so.
it now.
Yeah, I mean, and I already talked to Melissa that, adding a tab for in memorial, essentially, it's not trivial, but it's not a difficult process. So it'd just be a matter of Randy and the office staff, I mean,
Security.
yeah, and giving her the heads up to put something or put it out there and get the spelling and name and stuff together.
Yeah, because, I mean, if it happens on a Friday afternoon when we're gone, security pretty much handles it then.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just send us an email.
Yeah.
You can do that. All right, so let's look into doing that. We'll go from there. All right, now we have a new member application revision. This is the acknowledging the rule compliance, and this returns back to the discussion of probably 3 months ago when we were looking into the blue house and the blue roof. And the member came here and spoke to us, and she made the point that when she got her new member packet and went through everything, that it didn't stand out to her, and her realtor didn't point out the fact that any of the changes or things like that nature needed to be run through the ACC before undertaking it. And so, as you remember, we went ahead and acknowledged, given the size of the investment that the member had, and we went ahead and approved it sort of post hoc. And so one of the things that Greg talked about at that point was with, I don't know, with somebody else, who else did you work with on that? Was the idea, was it Grouse, did you? Or,
I think it's Linda and I talked about it.
okay. The idea of adding a more definitive statement to the new member application to call out to people so that doesn't happen again, that they go, well, I didn't know anything about that, so.
Well, we're not saying you change the whole statement. I mean, they fill out an application, I guess, at some point in the sale process. We just wanted to add the words. It says, it already says, I agree to abide by all the rules and regulations, and we wanted to add the phrase, including, comma, but not limited to building codes. Just hit it, because a new member coming in, and from the first place they're gonna get into trouble is with the building codes. And yeah, they get a lot of stuff, and most people don't read it. So that they would just, call it to their attention. That's the suggestion.
Why don't you make that also, that whole statement in bold or bigger,
But
capitalized?
it's a management thing. I mean, I don't know that we need a motion unless you guys want one. Maybe somebody else got another idea too.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's between the management committee and the office deciding to get that put together. If you share that with Jim, I think that would be, okay, kick it over to them. Any other questions about that? All right, on to non-motion activities, all right. Old business topics, oh geez. Okay, the assessment increase recap. I've had conversations with several people, and lots of them as to what was successful and what wasn't, what lessons there are to be learned, how do we move forward. And I guess this is just sort of a topic. Do we want further process on this? Do we want to put a group together to talk to people, to meet with people? It's still, to me, it still burns pretty deep right now, but I think, we didn't pass, and we either say we go forward the way we are, or we try to learn from the exercise and decide what to do. So that's essentially what I'm doing, is sort of throwing that out there. We don't meet for another month. The management committee will meet next week. But what do we want to do? Do we want to wait and think about it? Do we want to meet? I know some members here have already offered to meet with some other members to get a sense of it. How do we want to process this?
I think two things. In our very first meeting, you brought up doing a survey, and I like that idea, to find out why people voted the way they voted. And I don't know exactly how we would, phrase the questions or anything like that. And then secondarily, having listening, if nothing else, calling them listening meetings to hear from the membership to pros and cons of why they either voted for or against. What can we do to address their concerns? I don't think we can do nothing. I don't know that that's a good option.
I had a member stop in and express that same consideration, that the club should have meetings with the people that voted no to ask why, to find out why. I mean, it's the same thing you just said, and this person just came in and expressed that same situation. So I think that would be a good idea. How you would put that out there, when you would put that out there, how many would attend, it'd be hard to say, but one of the things that she said, that so they could express their opinions, concerns, reasoning without any repercussions. And I said, what do you mean by that? And she said, well, we don't want to be yelled at when we give our opinions.
So I did have some people that I saw on Facebook who had voiced concerns over the assessments and their frustration, and I offered to meet with them if they'd like to. And I had some people write private message who did not post at all, but had that same kind of mentality that they would like to meet and talk about it. And I, in fact, met with a couple before I came over here earlier today, and They had a beautiful outline created, very detailed with all of their concerns, and they don't like to post on Facebook. So, and they may not want to show at meetings. So I think if we could sort of combine strategies to get as much response as possible, that's only going to help us to figure out what to do to make everybody, make the place work together. So it was very informative though, and I appreciated them reaching out. So some might want to meet privately, and some might be into the meetings and just come to the meetings and survey. I think if you combine efforts, it's probably wise to try and get as much information as we can.
Wasn't the survey we just did anonymous?
Yeah.
I mean, you worked on, is that something we could do? You worked on the last survey?
Well, Dennis took the lead on that, and it was a Google survey.
There's all kinds of survey stuff you can use out online that can be anonymous. You can ask people if they voted.
That's the biggest thing. Some people don't want it, if they have a negative, they didn't vote, they don't want people to know about it.
Right.
Do that.
Yeah, it has to be anonymous, otherwise there's no point in doing
Yeah.
anything other than listening.
We had 4 information meetings, and 2 of them, the people doing the presenting there were more of us than there were people at the meeting. The 4th one was the best attended, but even still, it was, the number of people who came was less than 20. And so, we had 300 and some negative votes, so either they made up their mind or they certainly weren't interested in coming forward at that point. So I think, reaching out with them.
I think you'll get a bigger response than you might think. I talked to a lot of people, and bluntly, no, I'm not looking for it. But I would imagine that of all the people that I talked to, over 95% were not against the increase. So there was two concerns. Number one, they didn't like the way it was laid out. And number 2, and I'm going to be brutally honest with you, at this point, there's somewhat of a mistrust out there as to how we are handling the money. I heard several people, wants and needs. What's a wants and need? What is a need? I think you probably would get a pretty good response on a meeting. I'm kind of going out on a limb here. But if you had a meeting and said, hey, all we want to do is find out where you people are happy that we can live with. And I think, I had a lot of people tell me a lot of ideas, and some of them weren't bad. So, yeah, I'd say have the meetings. If they want to be private, make ourselves available, and see what happens. Rick Levinsky, bless him, Randy knows what his statement was. Do something, don't do nothing. Right. Okay, we're sitting at a pivotal point right now, and I don't think we can do nothing. We got to keep going.
So going back to what you just said, Jim, you said 95% of the people would.
The voted no, they weren't dead set against it. They were dead set against the increase, the way it was being done.
What does that mean though?
For a lot of them, it was just way too much money and way planning all the way out. I mean, I realized a lot of them said, quite frankly, hey, look, vote for the $20 this year, do what you're going to do, see how you come out on it, come back and ask us for money. It's tough to do, I know, I've done it before, but, okay, you get the first one, then you don't get the second one. But I think if they saw us take $20 from them and then do what we said we were going to do with the money. In other words, there's things on there. If you showed them where we did spend I'm pulling a figure, $76,000 for the road ditches, show them where we did it. There, your $20. I think it was $76,000, Jim. I can't remember per year. And then, okay, then $20,000 for the maintenance facility, and do it, and $65,000 for the security system, and do it. I think you can have a special vote And if we said, this is what we're gonna do with your money. And I mean, if you wanna put something in there just as an easy cushion or something like that, whatever you do, then come and vote on that.
I think that's borderline on being illegal.
What?
You cannot, if the code, the state law says you cannot, pass assessments for all regular, things that you've got to replace and need. Now, you're probably gonna do it on the ditches, but anything that's a regular replacement.
We've done things like that before. Special assessments, we've had special assessments for the pool, we've had special assessments for silt ponds, we've had special assessments to fix the dam, and the big
Those
one.
are all big exceptional ones that you couldn't anticipate. Anything you can and should anticipate, you should not have special assessments for. You should
I
be
didn't
able
say
to-
special assessment. I just said that we're asking for $20 to go into the operating fund, and here's what we're gonna do with it.
We don't know tonight. I'll get the law, and then we can.
Yeah,
check.
but all I'm doing at this point is just telling you what I heard. And then we do it, we do two things. We show them that we're gonna do it, and we're gonna spend the money wisely, and they're gonna know where to spend it.
A lot of
Then,
the things, Jim, were ongoing. It was a 5 to 7 year plan.
well,
So-
granted, that's why I said that the ditches are ongoing. But if we can say, okay, we took your $76,000 that, out of the $20 that you've given us, and allocated it, because that's what it was for the first year, or whatever it was, Jim, I can't remember for sure. And then,
I find this a little confusing, I'll be honest, because we tried to pass a $20 increase last year, and it failed.
Yeah, but it was all over the place too. It said, it was a $15 increase, I believe, and it had, people were saying, well, they said they're gonna do all this with this little amount of money, wasn't focused on something that the people could see. I
So
think
we
that's what
gave
Jim-
focus detail this year, but it was,
pardon me?
it feels to me like it's somewhere in the middle.
Well, I agree,
Because-
definitely.
I feel like we went from this to this.
Yeah,
And there's gotta be something more real.
And I think we're gonna get closer to some of these people's dams are gonna be paid off, and that's a big thing that they're thinking about, and
Let me throw this out as well. I mean, we asked for $15 last year, and what I remember, and fair or not, but it's pulled out in our financials, is people are looking at what's going on at the lodge. And we had a lousy year last year, and now we go and we ask for $60, and we're having an even worse year. And I think people look at that as things aren't being done with what they should, and I think it sows the mistrust. And until we solve that problem and get things working in a different direction, I don't know, if anything, I think that is probably our big boondoggle that we've got to solve.
But I don't know that we ever solve it so that the lodge is a profit center and not a cost center.
Well, I'm not saying that.
Maybe we can make it better,
Sure.
but how much better, I mean, that's relative. How much better makes it so that people find it more palatable to say, yes, to your point, I think your last name is Cotton. You brought up, how much does everything cost? Well, so all of our amenities cost. We make money from none of our amenities. They're there for our use, our enjoyment, but they all cost.
But many of us have been here when we were losing $40,000 and $50,000 a year on the clubhouse, and now we're gonna lose 160.
lodge.
Thank you, I'm having your.
I knew what you meant, and I've been here, good God, probably, more years than I can't carry count, but, so I've seen it all, the good, the bad, it varies. I think we'll get better, but I just don't think that we should be hanging our hat on one amenity and the cost of that one amenity, where our other amenities cost us a lot of money, but we enjoy them, we use them.
They're not pointed out in the echo that the golf course cost you this much money. Nobody says that, so they don't even know, they don't care, they're not looking, because you didn't say so.
I mean, the high water, when I first got involved with management, we sort of made the transition. At that point, we were losing 150. because when we set up the incentive plan with Mike Hermick at that time, we wanted to reduce, again, just my memory, this is going back 9 years, we wanted to reduce the deficit down from a $12,000 a month level, which times 12 is 144. So we did. The first year we got it down probably close to 100, and then over the last year before the transition occurred, we were in that 45 to 50 range, and that was our high water mark. And so that's well, I mean, that's what I'm saying is that was a little bit of a different. Mike was doing a lot of outside work. He was doing catering at other places. I mean, it speaks to the question that we can throw back to Jim and his committee to see what they think is reasonable. I've had a lot of conversations with John Blankenship over the years about that. I need to go into that. He'll have the opportunity to speak to that himself again as we go forward. I mean, I agree with you. There were, I think, for a lot of people, that was something. We had a lot, some very strident voices that said close it down. But then Ken Yost and Dennis's survey came back, and it was the second most important amenity, and to a lot of people. And I have to admit, I'm one who I like it to see it be less, but I would be absolutely devastated if we closed it down. I think and again, doing better is always the challenge. Whether that's enough people, whether it's enough to turn votes, or whether we can bring back the people who feel we mismanage everything. I don't know. I mean, that's sort of the raw spot that's hitting me, and why I brought it up tonight is that we need to see whether we can do that, where we can get to people and hear that message. Because if that's the message, then do people want us opening up the Raymond Gate and getting more people outside? If we can't get people here, I mean, that's literally one of the things we talked about, and Mike Hermick pushed. He joined the Raymond Chamber of Commerce and was the vice president, and he was trying, he was thumping the tub down there. He went and sold our beer at some other place too. So those were the activities, and again, that was the idea that Mike wanted to, I'm going on too long. Mike wanted to turn it into a company that he owned, and that he was the proprietor. So, well,
I hear what we're talking about, Jim, didn't mean to interrupt, but what we were just talking about is, let's find out from the people, how serious is this? Because I got a lot of complaints on that too.
Yeah.
But, let's find out from the people, and I think through private conversations, have meetings, come in and make sure that they understand. We want their input so that we know but they have to also realize that they have to accept that we know we need money to operate this place and keep it operating. Now, I'm not talking about that, you beat the dead horse to it.
There is one last thing. Not quite 50% of the folks that are members here didn't vote. Now, that doesn't help us at all because we don't know how they would have voted. Would they have voted to support the assessment, or would they have voted against the assessment? We don't know because we didn't hear their voice.
How many people responded to the survey?
I don't have the figures with me, but it was a pretty good response, like 70%.
But a lot more people could respond to the survey that aren't members, but my son responded to the survey, but he can't vote. I mean, and all adults that live here is what Dennis wanted to respond to the survey.
Yeah, I think we had 70% because there's like 30 member units. And so all you needed to do was put your lot number in and both of you could vote. So we had that percentage.
It's over 600.
We need to keep our survey to members.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So
It
that
sounded like
was,
they responded to the survey.
they did.
Whether they voted.
Yeah. Yes, that's unfortunately true.
Well, we don't know that the vote would have been any different if everybody would have voted. I mean, once you get half the people basically voting, you kind of got a pretty good statistical average, I would think.
Well, and along those lines, we got 650 requests for absentee ballots.
And how many?
140.
We only got about half of them back.
I know, I was there.
Oh, yeah, you were, weren't you?
Yeah, thanks for.
But I mean, that was shocking to me. When I heard that, I'm like, oh man, that ballot box is gonna be full, it's gonna take us forever. And when we got through it, I'm like, oh, well, I guess half people didn't respond or didn't turn it back in.
That's pretty amazing, I thought too.
So, you know, do we, to your point, do we look at a way to electronically vote? No, that's another down the road, but that might make things easier for people to vote. But it's easier to respond to a survey. So.
All right. I think we've worked on this one pretty well. We can look at some additional activities for the last couple of weeks of August. So I don't think there's anything that's going to happen in that time frame. But let's put our thinking caps up, and if people have other ideas and thoughts, you know, by the time we meet again in September, maybe in a management committee, we'll have a little time to review their bidding, because I know they're going to have to look closely, because there's, you know, the rubber will meet the road, to use one of your metaphors, you know, fairly soon, because unless we, you know, are committed to only paying our guards $10 or $11 an hour, and watching the revolving door, which, you know, that was one of the things we were addressing in the first year as well, was that increase. And on 1%, you're not going to have a 1.5% increase in the CPI this year. There's not going to be any new money. It's not going to be. All righty, moving along. Eric, all kudos to you. The Clubhouse Sunday liquor permit process. Where are we at?
Kudos to the ad hoc committee.
Sure.
Here's where we're at. We are on ballot. I have confirmed that yesterday. That the board, the Hocking County Board of Elections has approved our petition, and we will be on the November ballot. So we can change our focus now from sign the petition, please, to please go out and vote. That'll be, we'll do some things, I'll work on some things to make sure there's some awareness about that.
What's going to be on the ballot this year, do you know? Is there any trustees or, I mean, because it could work out very well if there's nothing on the ballot and we get our people out.
That's what
That was
I
my
don't know
question.
that there is much out there. This certainly isn't a presidential vote.
Or a
People
state
are going to come out to this, they're going to be going out to do something, and hopefully we can get that, even if it's the absentee ballot situation, we will put something together to get that pushed through. There's, now we're just dealing with some issues now with, the Board of Elections is trying to contact liquor control to get back and forth. Of course, we just got our application in this week.
No, I haven't sent it yet.
Okay, so we gotta get our application.
Yeah, it can go tomorrow.
Okay, so we gotta get that, we were looking for signatures,
Yeah,
for new board
yeah,
members,
got it.
and so that's gotta get in. Once that's in, then the Board of Elections and Liquor Control get together and they dot their i's and cross their t's and make sure everything's in compliance, and then we're good to go. So that should be a rubber stamp as well.
My recollection is the different license doesn't cost very much either, does
It's
it?
like 100.
That's what I thought was right.
No, application fee is 100, the license is 5.
Fine. We'll have to see if we sell it.
We'll raise that money at the party when we, Sunday party when we have the liquor license.
Yep.
Joanne will have to make sure we get that covered in our analysis, that it all is part of it.
So unless there's any other questions about it, that's
Cool. Well, we can, you know, let's make sure we get, I'll talk about it in the president's report this week, and then, yeah, that it's going forward, and then for people to keep their.
That's what they told me from the board, so.
Okay, cool. I'll put it in there. All right. Mr. Yost, long range planning member survey. I think we're getting ready to post it, aren't we?
It has been posted. Thanks to Penny in the office and Melissa, website chairman, we have an acceptable version of the data for viewing. It's on the front page of the web page. You just click on the link and it takes you to the long range planning page, and it's actually an HTML link. So we still want to tweak the format so that we can keep it in a PDF document in the future. It's there. I'm going to get out an email blast letting people know that it was there, similar to what we did with the survey, and we're going to post it in the Echo that the results are available on the homepage of Hideaway Hills Club. And I've looked at the data and tried to do some analysis of the data, and if you took all the comments in a properly typewritten page, there's 51 pages of comments.
I know.
So if you want to know what people are thinking about assessments and stuff like that, read the comments. There's a lot of good information in there. And because of the election and the new survey, the 5-year plan that I submitted to you in June is going to be tweaked and updated, and I'll submit it back so we get that on the webpage.
Are you gonna have any, I mean, does it make any sense to have a meeting or an information setting based upon sort of the modulo, the conversations we just had about?
I've really got to digest and analyze some of the data before I can really comment on it. So I'm going to be writing about it in the next version of the 5-year plan.
Okay. Anybody have any questions about it? I mean, do people look through the comments? Because there's a lot of comments there.
The Long Range Planning Committee was not planning to do this year. It was planning to do it in 2020. Dennis grabbed it by both horns and he went with it. And,
he did.
We got good results.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I found it really interesting, and a couple things, there's a lot of confirmation of stuff that I thought, that also there were new things to listen to too. I think the food service looked at some of the feedback you got on when people wanted to eat and when they didn't and what they wanted to spend, and so we can move forward with that. Absolutely. Lodge Deck update is the same as I said on Sunday. I'm waiting for the permit to come. I've talked to Woodrum, and he and Truman are lined up pretty much ready. They got a couple projects they're finishing, and we'll go on that. The guys at Carter Lumber, I will, as soon as we get the plan approved, we'll start ordering things and go forward with that. So I think we'll be, nailing people down on this project for a schedule has been, as you know, and I shared with you, has been very difficult. I will continue working. I've talked to Matt Woodrum 3 times in the last week, but he knows and he's interested and ready to go to work on this project. So as soon as I can get that approved, I'll share that with you, and then then I'll put some requests through to begin using the money that's in the. Again, we haven't spent any money yet. All we paid for so far is the engineering, and then the application for the permit, and I paid for those. So that's where we're at. It says new members, Eric Lapp, are you going to do them tonight, or is he going to do them? Don't say that. I actually did that on purpose. And you approved the agenda, so. Well, at the beginning of the meeting, I did.
All right, I'm happy to say we have quite a few new members. Kevin Smuck and Krista Donaldson on lots 563, 621, and 622. Stephen and Carrie Forgy, lots 1026 and 1027. Paul and Kara Unruh, lots 52G and 52H. Chuck and Terry Daniels, lots 2013, 2014, 2015. Philip and Lindsay Racy, and I apologize if I mispronounce anybody's name, lot 716. Keith and Christine Rogers, lot 294. William and Melissa Shepard, lots 369, 402, and 403. Tammy and Rex Stewart on lots 330 and 331. Matthew and Kimbra Grau, lot 426. And John and Deborah Freeland, lots 563 and 578.
Wait, was it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Are you a mathlete? Just kidding.
He said, "Are you a mathlete?" But you counted him.
Rain Man.
How many is that this year? Do we know? Are we?
I don't know.
We did.
You said 42.
I said 42 at the meeting.
Okay.
That included those 10?
I'm not sure if it did or not.
Because last year I think we did a little over 50 because we brought in about 220K from the new member fee. So cool. That's part of the budget, so that's really impressive. We have a motion to accept these new members. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Jim Lloyd seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All good. Hunter,
Did you make the motion?
you did.
I didn't actually say it, so he's right. So I motion that we accept these members into the club.
I'm sorry.
You said second?
I said,
Jim Lloyd second, and it passed unanimously.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, anybody have any additional business to bring up tonight? Nope. And then, oh yes, we do, we have the banking resolutions, you're right.
Read all of these?
I was actually looking at the wrong one when I said you, which you is
Yeah, that's what I'm
the
saying,
other one. I blew that, I was looking down at the earlier agenda.
All right, so I have several resolutions to read here for the Hideaway Hills Club Board of Trustees at their regular meeting, on August 20th, 2019, duly motioned by Annie Kerrigan, seconded by and votes cast by those trustees present, approve the following resolution. Be it hereby resolved that effective immediately, the following named people are authorized signers and may conduct banking business on behalf of the Hideaway Hills Club with Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan in regard to Hideaway Hills Club bank accounts. James Krieger, President of the Board. John T. Weibel, Treasurer of the Board. Randall Swetnam, General Manager. Penny Johnson, Assistant General Manager, and Christina Hall, Administrative Assistant. All previous resolutions are hereby null and void.
Motion from Andy, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Scott seconds, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. We have several of these, it'll be exactly the same thing, folks, so we just have to go through them for all of our bank accounts. And we have several.
The Hideaway Hills Club Board of Trustees at their regular meeting on August 20th, 2019, duly motioned by Annie Kerrigan, seconded by, to be named, and by votes cast by those trustees present, approved the following resolution. Be it hereby resolved that effective immediately, the following named people are authorized signers and may conduct banking business on behalf of the Hideaway Hills Club with Union Savings Bank in regard to the Hideaway Hills Club bank accounts. All accounts, James Krieger, John T. Weibel, Randy Swetnam, Penny Johnson, Christina Hall. All previous resolutions are hereby null and void.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Linda seconds, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
The Hideaway Hills Board of Trustees at their regular meeting on August 20th, 2019, duly motioned by Annie Kerrigan, seconded by to be named, and by votes cast by those trustees present, approved the following resolution. Be it hereby resolved that the following persons are authorized signatures and may conduct banking business on behalf of Hideaway Hills Club with Benton County National Bank in regards to Hideaway Hills Club bank accounts 164523, 164435, 141495, 30293, 800052861, and all certificates of deposit until such a time that this resolution would be replaced or revoked. Listing members are Randall Swetnam, Penny Johnson, Christina Hall, James Krieger, and John Weibel.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Linda seconds, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes.
The Hideaway Hills Club Board of Trustees at their regular meeting on August 20th, 2019, duly motioned by Annie Kerrigan, seconded by to be named, and by votes cast by those trustees present, approved the following resolution. Be it hereby resolved that effective immediately, the following named people are authorized signatures and may conduct banking business on behalf of the Hideaway Hills Club with Benton County National Bank in regards to Hideaway Hills Club Board of Trustees bank account 3175502. James Krieger, John Weibel, and Annie Kerrigan. All previous resolutions are hereby null and void.
Do I have a second? Second. Jim Lloyd, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes.
The Hideaway Hills Club Board of Trustees at their regular meeting on August 20th, 2019, duly motioned by Annie Kerrigan, seconded by to be named, and by votes cast by those trustees present, approved the following resolution. Be it hereby resolved that the General Manager, Randall Swetnam, Assistant General Manager, Penny Johnson, and the current Board of Treasurer, John T. Weigel, are authorized to access the safe deposit box rented from Benton County National Bank on behalf of Hideaway Hills Club. They have the authority to deposit items in the box for safekeeping and/or remove items as needed. This resolution remains effective until such a time that the employment of Mr. Swetnam or Ms. Johnson is terminated, or the service term of Mr. Weigel has expired, or this resolution would be replaced or revoked.
A second?
Second.
Linda Lonziger, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The Hideaway Hills Club Board of Trustees at their regular meeting on August 20th, 2019, duly motioned by Amy Kerrigan, seconded by to be named, and votes cast by those trustees present approved the following resolution. Be it hereby resolved that effective immediately, the following named people are authorized signatures and may conduct banking business on behalf of the Hideaway Hills Club with Citizens Bank of Logan in regards to Hideaway Hills Club bank accounts and all certificates of deposit. Randall Swetnam, Penny Johnson, Christina Hall, James Krieger, John Weigel. All previous resolutions are hereby null and void.
Have a second?
Second.
Scott Martin, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is that it? All right. Let's double cover here. Come down here. That being the case, now looking at the correct one, do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Second by Linda, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Take a break for a second and we'll go to executive session if people want.
It is.
Just
a comment from an observer here. I think the meeting is very professional and you people are commended. I appreciate all you guys taking time to be on this. I wish more people would come. This is only my second one I've been to. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Very professional.
Another chance.
Okay.
Everyone.
Yeah, go ahead. And I gotta see. So for the record, everybody said they heard it.
Yeah.
That's the solution.
I tried harder to speak into the public.
Actually, it was Kathy who responded back and said,
Do it.
when people spoke in,
Good to hear.
that's when.
It's going in the operating budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we're going to do this, so I think that is.
Yeah,